This is WAW. What a week.
What a week. PoliTricks.
Good morning, good day, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to another episode of WOW What a Week. Hashtag PoliTricks featuring Botsang Modimowame Moiloa.
Morning, Fresh, and morning to the viewers from all over the world.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just a bit tired, but yes.
So before we get into the week's movie, on Wednesday,
yes,
you were in great company.
Yeah.
A lot of intellectuals, a lot of people with a lot to say about the current state of the world, many also friends of Russia. Tell us about Wednesday, where you were, what was happening.
Well, I had actually put it as one of the elements to be discussed today.
Sir.
But what is happening is, you know, the world has been a unipolar state of the world. The northern pole of the world, meaning the West particularly, you know,
sure.
the USA, Canada, and Europeans, have been seeing themselves as the masters of the world and the leaders of the world, and they've organized themselves into various organizations, whether it's NATO, whether it's the EU, whether it's any other relation that the North has been doing to the world.
And would I be correct in almost viewing it as that attitude has generally been, if you're not with us, you're against us?
You're against us. And that is the
or if you're with the Russians, you're against us.
Against us.
Or if you're with the Chinese, you're against us.
Absolutely.
Versus you're a sovereign state. You're an adult.
And
you must decide where you want to go.
And you have a choice who do you have bilateral or multilateral relations with, whether diplomatically or politically. It doesn't, and that has been their attitude. But the funny thing about the North Pole countries is that they excluded some of the North Pole countries that were seen to be friends of, for example, the terrorists, Africans, the Russians, or the Chinese. If you look at some of the Scandinavian countries, which were anti-imperialism and Western domination to the world, they were excluded from that gangster of the North Pole countries.
And generally, a lot of Scandinavia have just wanted to just carry on with it.
Yeah.
Can we just carry on with our lives?
Yeah, no, they're the Scandinavian countries, especially those three, the Norway, Sweden, and Denmark.
Yes.
They just want to go on with their own lives. But anyway, what Russia had done, and this was started by the Chinese economically years back when they started having bilateral trading with other countries. China never focused on them militarily after the World Wars. They've been focusing for the last 60 years at least in building the international trade and economy and the relations with countries they could trade with. That's why the Chinese are the giant of the world economy at the moment.
And bringing their own people up to speed when it comes to technology.
Exactly. Anything,
and
manufacturing and technology.
Remember I was Easter, this past Easter, I was in Shanghai.
Oh, yes. You went to Shanghai, yes.
And my host was telling me about how because he'd been living in South Africa since independence.
Okay.
And he was talking about how 30 years ago, when South Africa got freedom,
yes,
Shanghai was literally a backward city. But when you look at the past 30 years, Shanghai alone is one of the most advanced cities in the world.
In the world, yes, in the world. Because they had a vision. They didn't focus on fighting the USA. But what the Russians have done, they've taken it to another level. Because the Americans, as well as the other, Western countries, they had turned the world against Russians. They made Russians to be seen as terrorists, as military people supplying arms to terrorists. We know who are the real terrorists of the world. But what Russia has done, they've brought up a concept of a multipolar world now.
Yes.
So we're not going with the unipolar world anymore. We're going the multipolar. In other words, let's bring in countries of the South. Let's bring South America in. Let's bring Africa. The main focus is on Africa. That has been left out by all regional bodies. Let's bring Africa in. Let's bring Russia itself in, as well as the Southeast Asia. So those countries of the South-South, they started with the South-South Cooperation, and they decided, let's form a multipolar world. And the nice thing about the multipolar world, Fresh, is in the event that we attended this week, is that it does not say, it doesn't have exclusions, like the North Pole gang. They say, let's include everybody, it's multi. Let everybody play a role. And role is not only economical, it's not only political or diplomatical. It includes cultural affairs. It includes anything else that a country has to do with. But also, they are using it by forming, that international Russophilia movement, and Russophilia is Friends of Russia, basically, who are also trying to assert the fact that Russia is not what we're made to believe it is. And there's culture in Russia, there's foods, there's dishes, there's not only vodka. And to demystify this thing of the world or the Americans or the British or anybody in NATO making us to see President Putin as an enemy, as a dangerous person, as an enemy of the world. So the Russophilia movement is actually focusing on demystifying that whole concept of saying Russia is a terrorist state. It occupies other countries. It destroys other countries, and they are basing it on, the Ukraine situation only. So the Russophilia movement is going to work hand in hand to, line out or outline the whole multi, forum, but to say Africa now must represent itself. So what happened on Wednesday was that event that was organized by the MIR, the International Movement for Russophilia. So they've organized that, and I was romped in a week before to assist in organizing it in South Africa. That's the first of its own. The movement has been existing for just above 2 years, almost 3 years. In February, it will be 3 years. And it was its first in an African continent. It's not only for South Africa, it was also that's why there were people from various universities from, Asia, Indonesia, Africa, various African countries were represented. And I think it was a very, very successful one of the events that not only because I was part of it, but the whole lineup of the people who were speakers and presenters of various documents. It was not just a talk shop like we are used to. Yeah.
In fact, I was trying to say, who were some of the speakers and what did you take away from what they had to say?
Look, very interesting. From South Africa, we had, academics, and we had Professor Siposiebe from the University of Zululand, and he presented one of the most important papers. The University of Zululand is rolling out a program where all the academics in that university will have to do a certain course or paper on decolonizing the mind. So they're saying you can't be teaching our children, the future generation, about colonialism and apartheid and imperialism and the accountants, so we have to decolonize Africa, while yourself you didn't go through a process. And I think it's something that one has to give thumb up to the University of Zululand and Professor Siepe and his colleagues. But we also had speakers from the University of Indonesia, a former senator in the American government yesterday, and she's now a lecturer in the University of Indonesia. She also came to present. And also there's a gentleman who's called, I just forgot his name, Jackson. I forgot his surname. Jackson is an American activist living in Moscow now. One of the founders of I didn't know that there's a communist movement in the heartbeat of the USA.
I know, yeah.
And it's one of the fastest growing organizations in the USA. He's now spending most of his time in Moscow. But the highlight for me was a gentleman called Pepo Escobar, who is, I don't know what he told me, was born in Brazil. And he's Italian, but he's traveling all over the world. Pepo Escobar is one of the greatest authors of the world. He wrote a lot of paper about fora movements. He wrote a lot of papers and books. Actually, he's one of the acclaimed authors. And he's actually a citizen of the world. He regards himself as a citizen of the world. He doesn't associate with any other country. So and then we had the keynote speaker. Obviously, it was a South African politician, Menomvula Mokonyane, as the DSG of the African National Congress, because of the history of the African National Congress and the former Soviet Union. So those were some of the lineup, speakers who were there, counting myself in as well.
What do you say to people who say all this is even just more propaganda from the other side of the bridge?
Look, I think people should go and read and inform themselves what is the purpose of this whole process. It is also not for Russia only. It is also to aid Africa, to say Africans, stand up and rise and take your position in the world. You understand? It is also saying to the Africans, you have been left behind. The world knows you when they want your minerals. But when you are supposed to be a participant in international forums or multilateral organizations,
you must wait outside.
You must wait outside.
We will call you when we're ready.
Yes, we will call you when what. Like for example, South Africa is a member of the G20.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, we are hosting the G20 in a month's period, and they want us, when we are doing those things, to host this international. But what is it benefiting us on? What is it that we have done? And there's two things that I took out of that. One is decolonizing of the African mind. You know, we've been talking about decolonize Africa, but the mind, once our mind set as Africans, it is not clear of what we have to do. We will not decolonize the continent. And the reason why Africa is not progressing economically, it is because of that colonization. We don't see anything wrong with the DBAs, the Anglo-American, the Alpha, what, everybody who's owning mines in South Africa. We don't see anything wrong with that, as long as they employ people and they pay taxes. That's a colonized mind that thinks that way. We didn't repossess what belongs to us as Africans.
Yeah, we still treat it like they're doing us a favor.
Yes. Understand? That's exactly the problem.
Versus, you're on my land. How do we work such that there's maximum benefit for my people?
For my people, yes.
Versus, you're gonna just give me some
royalties and taxes and all that.
People are still living in squalid conditions. There's, infrastructure is minimal.
Exactly.
And you almost get a sense that a lot of these big corporations do the bare minimum. They do the bare minimum because they must still maximize profits.
Yeah, that's what
shareholders must still get the millions and billions.
That's what capitalists and imperialists exist for. And I always tell people, a capitalist or a business person exists to maximize profit. Sure. Anything else comes after. And we want them to take care of our social challenges and social ills. We pass laws in time and they ignore them. They just don't care. They are like, we are paying taxes. And I'm still one of the people who believe that the taxes that people who are mining minerals in Africa are not the true reflection. If you look at the trillions of dollars they are making out of whether it's platinum, gold, or diamonds, vis-a-vis the taxes they are paying, something doesn't add up.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't add up. Yeah. So, basically that's what the event was about.
One thing I appreciated about that event is the fact that as much as it was hosted by the Russians, as it were, it was not anti the West.
Yes.
It was pro wake up, open your eyes, open your mind, make informed decisions. That's all.
Absolutely. Yes.
Make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
Don't allow yourself to be forced to have to be pro a certain pole and anti a certain pole.
As the Russian foreign minister had said, people who are focusing on the multipolar movement, people who are focusing on BRICS, and they think it's countering the West, it's anti the West, they're making a mistake. We are simply organizing ourselves as African people or as Asian people, or working together to reclaim our position in the world, what rightfully belongs to us.
Sure.
We are not saying the Americans and others must not do what they want to do, but we are saying allow us to do what we want to do as well. Allow us to be friends with people that we want to be friends with. But what I also liked about the event, as you said, as much as it was organized by the Russians or the Russophilia in the world, it had people from Venezuela, Latin America, Europe, Russia itself, South Africans that responded to the call from media, cultural activities, politicians, and academics. And you could have seen the balance that was there, not only of the speakers, but of the participants. I mean, one of the speakers in the program was a student who is 29 years old, has 2 doctorates already, and she studied medicine in Russia.
You know that I met her when she was still in high school.
Really?
She was with her mother. There was an event at the Union buildings.
When she got an award or something?
No. She was still a child. It was like a Red Bull event with motorcycles and everything else. And I met her with her mom, and we took a picture together. And like I said, she was a child. She's now a medical doctor. And she's 3rd year into her law degree.
Into her law degree, yes.
I was like, geez, child, what's going on here?
Did she remember you when you met?
They reminded me, I remembered them.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, it shows how this, the setup of the lineup of the people that we had organized. I said to Melina, the lady that they have sent Secretary General of the Russophilia movement or the multipolar, movement. When she arrived, we met last week on Tuesday Fresh, and the other Tuesday, not this past week. And I asked her, what do you need? And I told her, you have to understand the culture of the African people. You have to understand what is happening on the ground. Let me run this thing. Let me organize the people. You can sieve them. The embassy of Russia can sieve the people that have to be there. And I said to her, let's leave politicians out of this. If we have politicians, there were less than 10 in that hall.
Yeah.
There were less than 10, but the rest of over 100 people came from various sectors of the community. And for me, I think that's how we should. We have made people who have experienced things who can take charge of the affairs of their communities or the societies. And I think people must go and read and inform themselves more about the Russophilia, but most important, about the multipolar movement, the international multipolar movement. So I think if South Africans can inform themselves more about that, I will write more about that. I'll share more documents so that people can actively participate, because we have to establish these cells all over the continent and to relate better, break the colonial boundaries. You understand? Not the borders that will make people upset, but break the colonial boundaries of knowing the history and mapping up the way forward.
I love how, like you're saying, that, for instance, at the University of Zululand, they're starting a program of decolonizing the curriculum and the intelligent people that work there.
Yeah.
Until our leaders go through a similar program.
Yes.
Until the leadership of every African country go through a similar program. Unfortunately, we're going to keep going 3 steps forward and 5 steps back.
And that, yeah.
And as long as politics on this continent continue to be about the stomach, there'll always be someone who's willing to look the other way or not change the status quo.
And Fresh, as I said, when I said the tone in my opening remarks of the event, if we can also stop, and I've said it in this platform, if we can also stop the blame thing. Yes, apartheid was evil. Yes, white people were brought racism in and colonialism and all that. But we must stop putting our energy into those negative effects. Let us focus on what can we do with the little we have in our hands. Political power. And Africans are very strong people. Africans are fighters. Africans have resistance, the worst thing that has ever happened in the world. Let us use that resistance and that energy and that drive to do good things for us. Let us not expect the West to, this thing of going there to knock and beg and ask for help from the former colonizers. It actually shows how still mentally colonized our leaders are. Yeah. You are a leader of a country that has diamonds, gold, and platinum. You still want to go to the West and say, help us, aid us to develop Africa. What nonsense is that? Why? What you can do is that you can close. You can do what Captain Ibrahim Traoré has done in Burkina Faso. You say, you have the money because of my resources. Therefore, I'm not going to come to you to beg for foreign aid or financial muscle. I'm going to keep my resources. You will buy them from me in my terms and conditions. Why is it difficult for our leaders to do that? Why are they afraid to repossess what rightfully belongs to them? And I've said before, they can change the laws of the country. They don't have to do it illegally or militarily. Implement the laws of the country.
Sure. Legislation that makes it easy for things to change
absolutely
is often all that is needed.
Yes, that's all.
But beyond that, you need people who can take that legislation,
implement
and bring it to life.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
Because you can have the best legislation in the world, the best constitution in the world, but if all it is it's nice on paper. But for your average person, they actually don't even notice it. Yeah. They don't feel it.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
And that's lack of leadership. When I was saying that, I said to Menon Vulamokonyane and Madam Febe, is it Portrait from the ANC? I said to them, I'm not insulting the leadership of Africa, but I'm saying the problem in Africa is leadership. Yeah. It's the leadership, it's the people who have put there to lead us and to make decisions for us and to implement it. They are failing to do that.
But remember the conversation we had when we spoke about how half of the countries in the world are going to the elections. And we discussed the fact that the youth of the world have an opportunity to reset.
And it's showing.
And they're doing it.
Yes, another government collapse. And Namibia is going to elections soon.
Was it Mauritius?
Mauritius, yes.
In Mauritius, the young people
said, no, we are tired.
We want someone
else.
else.
So it is happening.
So it is happening. Young people are actually making their voices heard.
Yeah.
The big question is, are they bringing people in that have the balls to stand up and do what is right for their people? Versus
Yes, they must
for
bring-
me,
yes.
versus for me and my friends.
Yeah, they must bring in people who will do things for the people, for the society, for the entire nation or the community, and that's what we need.
And after 4 or 5 years, if they have not delivered, you do it again. Bring someone else in.
I'm saying 4 and 5 years is long. In the middle, halfway, if you see they're not delivering, chuck them out. Whether with a referendum or with protest, don't wait for 4 or 5 years.
I agree with you. Off the record. Let's bring it back to SA.
Yes, boss.
Floyd Shivambu has moved even more up
Yeah.
in all things political at the MK party. What's happening there?
Yeah, so we started the week with those breaking news.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, look, I was one of those who was surprised. We knew that the MKP, Umkhonto is a party secretary general who was holding forth. He's a civil servant, so he had gone back to his previous job, and I think he's even promoted. He's not in the same level, so he got a much better job as a chief director, a DDG in the government of Gauteng. Then the Umkhonto party said they met with their national command team, and then they've decided Floyd Shivambu to be the secretary general. One who must always remember that in political parties, and it started with the Chinese and the Communist Party in Russia, under the Vladimir Lenin's and all that. The secretary general of a political party, and we have seen even in the ANC, they are the center. They are the engine of an organization. So I would sit here and say Floyd Shivambu is occupying the most powerful position in the organization. Look, Tato, I've worked with Floyd and I've observed how Floyd operates and all that. I think it's a very pivotal position. He will do very well, and it's also to remove this myth that MKP is a Zulu-based party from KwaZulu-Natal. Now, if there are SGs, a Tsonga or Shangaan man who comes from Limpopo, it says a lot. But it also says a lot on how MK is bringing young people as well. Because people have been looking at MK, looking at Jacob Zuma as an old, octogenarian. But look at the leadership and look at their academic qualifications, their background, their activism as well. Because they are not just educated people. Almost all of them have been activists in their way, whether in unions, whether in political parties, whether in social movements, the way Andilets come from, and then they've got Dr. Kloppe there. And I think it was a very bold move from MKP to put Floyd there. I don't have any doubt that he will succeed, especially with the kind of support he has. He's got a very big task in his hand between now and the local elections, on now and electing the formal structures. He must form the structures. He must go around the country and establish and form structures, because they've got interim and temporary structures at the moment. So he's got a mammoth task in his hands, but I don't have any doubt that he can handle it with the support that he may have.
What are your thoughts on the fact that President JZ pretty much has all the power?
Look,
in that part, he can fire, he can hire, and I suspect that constitution is even very Zuma-centric to also annoy the ANC, by allowing him
parties,
2 memberships.
Yes.
No, I don't think they care about other parties.
No, but the Zuma-centric is only towards the ANC, it's only with the 2 membership. Yeah. But there's a lot of talk in other political parties to say everything is centered around Jacob Zuma. And I think they're keeping other parties, and especially the ANC, busy with that. First, with the minds and the brains that are in there, I don't know, people who have worked with President Zuma, I've heard them saying, we had Mamulu Kukubai, the Minister of Human Settlements, the other day, talking about how President Zuma was very democratic. I've heard somebody also in the recent weeks saying, it was Dr. Naledi Pando who said in the recent weeks, President Zuma, people took advantage on the fact that he listens to everybody. He's accommodating.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. It's not me saying it. It's people who served under him. Dr. Naledi Pando respected. Mamulu Kukubai has said it. And many other people are saying so. So I do not know where does this concept that says he's a dictator, where does it come from? I don't understand that. But I don't also think that the strong men and women around him I've worked with my brother Andy Lemtama. I know Dr. Shlopo. We all know who Dr. Shlopo is. He has worked with Dalimpofu and Mzwanele Manyi and many others. I don't see those people as the hear me bass kind of people, yes sir kind of people. I think they have worked with him, and I don't think it's dominance. But with one of the dual membership, no, it's just to keep the ANC busy, and he has really successfully kept the ANC busy with the story of dual membership and delaying them and all those things.
Sure.
But I think Floyd will do very well under this kind of leadership. I think the MK party is having a very good vision in preparing the party for the future.
What are your thoughts on his little spats with the CIC on social media?
His former comrade, former friend, and I think that's childish, both of them. I think I'm actually very disappointed with Floyd, and I'll talk to Floyd, and I'll tell you why. He's the one who left the EFF to go and focus on this new baby that is handling or that is belonging to, and he should have avoided. They should have shown some level of maturity. He should have avoided this social media spats with Julius, and they are going back and forth. And I thought he had said at the beginning he is not angry with Julius. There's nothing wrong with it between him and Julius. But politicians lie. We know they say one thing this week, another week they say something. But this is too personal, and I did expect Juju to hit hard at him and others like he has already done. I expected Julius to. It is in his character. That's what he has been doing all along. Wrong or right, it's not the issue. The issue is it's in his character. Now we are seeing the side of Floyd Nyiko Shivambu that we never knew, that they can be childish and exchanging space. So one of them must grow. One of them, even Julius himself, he should be seeing himself as saying, but this man left. I'm the commander-in-chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Let me not focus on Floyd. And the things they're talking about, man, they are very childish stuff, that you body shame people and all that. It's
At
okay.
least I don't throttle journalists.
Yeah, and this one comes. I don't
journalists.
beat up journalists outside, and this one in the. But it was in the.
Isn't there a risk that eventually they'll start releasing files they shouldn't?
I'm worried about that. That eventually somebody somewhere will release files that that are unpalatable. And not even good for the ears and the eyes. And it had already started. Floyd Shivambu wrote something about the EFF leaders. I think the former student command leader who is now in the, I just forgot this young man's name. And he responded very, very nasty and dirty messages to say, you must shut up when I will release recordings of you and concubines that led to your divorce. We'll release files of your exchange of messages between yourself and Johan Rupert. Understand? And all those things. You don't want to do that. You don't want to play that dirty game that may disturb you in your current position as the SG. Understand? I mean, one thing that has happened, on Thursday night, the Central Command team of the CCT of the EFF met to prepare for the upcoming provincial elections, and then for the eventual one in December. One thing that I noted, very interestingly, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi was not there. He was not part of them. They met on Thursday night to discuss the mapping forward, the planning. He is the member of the Central Command team. I'm not raising anything suspicious. Are
you perhaps saying he is one of the two Juju alluded to?
The singers.
To them that they're next to leave the party.
Yeah, well, I think I wish Mbuyiseni must be a little bit smarter. He must not leave. He must not he must go and contest elections and don't leave. Unless he's also going to sing the song that Umkhonto is talking a language that I want to hear, that I understand. But, at times you don't give the opposition what they want to hear. You let them sing and rant and do that. But he was not in the meeting of the Central Command Committee. I don't know why, I don't know the reasons. But when Juju spoke about true singers, there's true singers in the EFF. It's with Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi and the official singer of the Republic, Ringo Malinkos.
Sure.
Why would Ringo is not a politician, why would he leave the EFF, and unless he has now become a politician? Because it's not everybody in political parties who's a politician. And like I said the other day, Mebusuem Kweba, an advocate Mebusuem Kweba, is not a politician.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're the MK and you're trying to tribally balance perceptions, you might go for it.
Yeah, well, let's wait and see. But I think, gentlemen, Julius Malema and Fleshbam, you have been friends, you have been brothers in arms, you have been stop with the spat. What does it say to their young followers as youth? So these guys have been together from teenagehood, age 13, 14. They're in their 40s now. Why would they behave like that in their 40s? I think that's very immature. And especially they're not talking about politics. They're not talking about my policies are better than yours, or I talked to politics, or I held your hand. They're talking about things that kids at teenagers talk about. I think they missed their teenagehood. They became too much of activists and comrades, and they forgot to be teenagers in their, late 10s and early 20s, and they are catching up with that now.
The other day on Talk Radio 702, I'm trying to remember which analyst it was, and he spoke about how the way things are going, he feels that Julius's power has peaked, and that yes, Juju will be a part of our politics for the next 30, 40 years, like General Holomisa.
Yes.
But he'll never be more powerful than he's been already. He'll never be president, and that he's going to be literally relegated to where he is right now, and he'll never grow any further than that. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly my thoughts, Fresh. In one of our episodes, actually last year, on March, April, last year, I said that. I said the EFF, first of all, the organization has reached its peak. It has reached the ceiling. It has done very well. It won't go beyond where it is. And the reason it won't do that, it is because the leader of the EFF, as the person you are referring to said, has reached his peak. First of all, Julius is very comfortable where he are at that peak, and he will remain there for quite some time.
But surely presidency is the ultimate prize.
Not now. Look, there's new kids, there's new people coming out. MK has created a chaos for the EFF. They have actually changed the ball game. The only sleeping tiger is the ANC, by not realizing that they must have been putting young people there to prepare them for 2029, and those are the only ones. But if you look at MKP, including our parties like Action SA, people are undermining Action SA, and even Bossa, they've got formidable good leaders who can rise. And right now, Bossa, with Musima and in the leadership, they are pushing for the amendment of the constitution, which I support it, and I think other parties will support it, that the people in South Africa, the electorate must vote for the president of their choice.
Sure.
And once people vote for a president of their choice, Julius then zero chance. Zero. I mean, if the political party he is leading gets 10%, it drops point something percent to drop, then what about him getting 51% of the electorate? In the next two elections, 2029, 2034, I doubt 2034, I doubt he will reach that. And then after, he will be very old. He'll be in his late 50s after 10 years or mid 50s to revamp himself. It's too late at that time. But the political situation in South Africa, people are gradually moving from worshipping individuals and demigods as well as political parties. People are moving. People are going to vote for different political parties every elections.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's move underground.
Underground.
Yeah, so, some people call them artisanal miners.
I call them artisanal miners.
Other people call them illegal miners.
Yeah.
But what we do know, though, is that a lot of old, abandoned gold mine shafts are still a source of income. And minerals.
Yes.
For a lot of artisanal miners out there.
Yeah.
Some people even argue that some of the big companies might be involved so that they don't have to worry about paying
labor salaries and taxes
and that they might even be involved themselves so that you can proper milk that abandoned mine shaft. But the big story this week obviously has been the minister and the presidency saying that the standoff that's happening at one of the shafts in the northwest,
yes,
that, I think, to cut a long story short, there's activity underground, and often these guys go under there for months.
Yeah.
They even recruit as far as the Eastern Cape, as far as Lesotho,
yes,
where you bring people in who are going to stay down there. They live down. It's a little city down there. And now, because one of the shafts has been closed so that there's only one exit, miners are refusing to come back up because they'll be arrested, obviously. So there's this big standoff. The community want to send food and water down there, but we're being told, why would we want to support criminals who are under the ground?
And Fresh, first of all, why would the community want to do that? That's the question that we should be asking ourselves.
Because they might be family members.
Because of family members, one. The second element is they may be benefactors of the resources or the money that comes out of that, even if they are not family. But they you know, there's business going on. If you run a spaza shop and you've been the supplier to those people, now your business is affected because you know you are losing money. But let me tell you, this whole thing of artisan miners or illicit miners, it has, in my view, it has four elements. There's four folds. One, there's a very serious issue of the government failing to strongly implement the 2005 Act or legislation that came into effect in 2005 as well, that said, you know, the money that the Department of Mineral Energy, are collecting money, which is monies from the mining companies, to say the day you finish milking our land, the day you say it's not profitable anymore,
rehabilitated.
There's rehabilitation money. The government has failed to use and enforce that. Whether these mining companies have been paying that those dues to the state, I don't know. But if they have been paying, the state has failed to do that, to rehabilitate the mines, to secure them, to keep them safe. That's the first element.
And if they haven't been paying, then these companies have been let off
scot-free. Scot-free, yes.
For abandoning
absolutely, because mine shafts. There is legislation. If somebody tells me these mine shafts are the mine shafts that were closed before 2005, I can sit here and say they got away with it. But for those that closed after 2005, there is no reason in this country that we should be having those mines that normal community people access them. The second element is I don't think these people, the so-called zamazamas, and I don't think they are normal community people. I think they are miners. I think they knew what was going on. I think some of them were former employees.
So you're saying they have experience?
They have experience. They know. You wouldn't just go 2,000 meters fresh, 2,000 meters. If my arithmetic is 2 kilometers.
2 kilometers on the ground.
To the belly of the earth. And you have never been into one meter under no, it's experts. It's people who know mining. It's people who have mined those areas. According to the police and official reports, majority of them are Basotho. And me and you, we know that the majority of miners in South Africa are people from the Eastern Cape and from Lesotho. Then followed by a little bit Mozambique and Malawi, because those were the mining countries. South Africa, the apartheid era was recruiting from those countries for cheap labor or migrant labor. So it doesn't surprise me that my uncles are leading the whole pack from Lesotho of all these people. Then there's an element of criminality. And for me, criminality is not that they don't have the licenses, because we have a situation, and we'll talk about it one day, in KwaZulu-Natal, where a mining company has met with the community and the former miners. They formed a committee, and this so-called former zamazamas, they are former now. They are now regulated to can operate as artisan miners and all that. You see, they control the situation there. Everybody's benefiting. The mining company, the state, they're paying taxes. But now here, it's an element of criminality, because who is the a kingpin of this gold?
Where's the gold going?
Where's the gold going?
Where's it being sold?
Because if you are telling me that, I know the police said the number of 4,500 underground is exaggerated, but they've already arrested 1,100 who came out, and they still say there's more in there. So if 2,000, let's say 2,500 people are prepared in one mine. We don't talk about the ones in the West Rand, where I come from. We don't talk about Ekurhuleni. We don't talk about in Mpumalanga and Limpopo, because the same thing is happening there. We're talking in one mine in Stilfontein, the Northwest. Over 2,000 people are prepared to live underground, mine the gold, and they make so much money that they can afford to even have a shebeen. You know, I saw one video of them celebrating, having a party, and all that. That's everything there.
It's a city down
It's
there.
a city, you understand? So there's an element of criminality. But the criminals are not only the poor people who are underground. The criminals are sitting in the offices. The other day we spoke about it. I listened to Power FM debate with Thabiso Kotani. One Uber driver or Bolt, whatever, called in and said, no, The people who are mining this gold, we transport it. I make so much money out of it. We transport the money to a police station in Randfontein. There's a police captain there who escorts us and the car to take the gold to some place, a building in Johannesburg city center. I mean, this person was saying that, what did the government do with that information that was in a public radio? But there's another element. There's a social, before the minister talks about smoking people out, there's a social and economic need.
So for those that missed it, so the minister and the presidency basically said that we are not going to assist criminals.
Yes.
We're going to smoke them out. Criminals must be persecuted, but I'm sure she meant prosecuted.
Yeah, I think there's a slip of a tongue. I think she meant they must be prosecuted.
So let's not be too hung up on persecution.
Yes.
Because I don't think she meant persecution.
No.
But the long and the short of it is people are saying it's inhumane the way she phrased it. But I think what's dividing the country is the fact that some people are also sick and tired of zamazamas. People are tired of living under siege because of zamazamas.
Yes.
And they're saying, if you're a criminal and you're going to do crime, and now we must support you. But on top of that, the police spokesperson, is it Brigadier Mati?
Brigadier Mati, yes.
Was speaking about how, no, these people are choosing to stay down there.
Yes.
They're choosing to stay down there. They can come out anytime they want.
Look.
We'll be here waiting, but they're choosing to stay down there.
As much as the social ills and economic factor why these people are down there, and the government has failed to do its job. Our government is reactive, all the time. It's in the DNA of our government to react, to do things after. There must be crisis, then they react. As much as there's that, I don't think there's a human element here that we should be making noise and worried about, because the state didn't say those people must not get the resources. The state didn't say people must not send things to them. The state just closed all other escape areas, which they are doing it in order to arrest them, to enforce the law. And for that, I don't have issues. If they have done something wrong, they should be arrested and prosecuted, or charged and prosecuted. Majority of the people are said to be illegal immigrants, so they will have to be deported to their countries. So the state want to enforce the law as prescribed and as required. But the fact that the state had allowed family members or some who came up to send them in order for them not to suffocate and die and be hydrated and all those things, they've allowed them to send them water and food and maheu and whatever. But now the people are saying, and the state is worried that no, but once we keep on sending things there, these people will regain energy.
They'll stay down there.
And life will continue. So taxpayers are divided. Some are saying it's inhumane. Some are saying, but it's our taxes that's feeding them. But you spoke about crime, or the communities are, my hometown is Randfontein. I drove with Main Reef Road to Randfontein the other day. Fresh, it's scary when you drive there. You can see who's a Zamazama. I know Basotho, and I know people who have worked in mines. When I see, I can tell that this person comes from underground. But also the destruction of infrastructure. One day, one of the townships or the residential areas in Gauteng that are sitting on top of this, mine slums that have been dug up, it will collapse and people will die, families will die. And those are things that we must worry about. And I think those people must come out of there. They went there voluntarily. They must come out voluntarily to save their own lives, because we don't want loss of life. And they must face prosecution, not persecution. They must face prosecution. And again, people were debating about what will smoke them out mean. They even brought in the Marikana issue.
Honestly, for me, I think it's just the how she said it.
She said,
it's the how.
Fresh.
But in the bigger scheme of things, I don't disagree with her.
No,
it's just her choice of words.
Yes.
Maybe she put too much emotion into it, versus what's the position
of the
and
state.
let's stick to the position without adding emotion.
She added, but she's human. Again, Fresh, I've always said ministers have two spokespersons, the spokesperson for the ministry and the spokesperson for the department. Those people are experts. They're trained on how to handle these things under pressure. They're trained not to use emotions when they engage in. Use your spokesperson to handle the media questions and media things. You're a politician. You will be angry. You want to harass people.
And don't be pushed into a corner to give an answer immediately.
Yes.
No, we will send you a statement.
Look at how Brigadier Mate
Brigadier
of
Mate
SAPS
is always measured. She's measured. She makes sense. She's coherent. Zero emotion.
She also has the facts well lined up.
Yeah.
You understand? She knows the numbers. She knows the figures. She will tell you when they push her to say, but what about why these mines are not closed? She's like, but I'm SAPS. I'm representing SAPS, and my minister, what we have to do is to enforce the law to arrest these people. Why the mines are not closed? Go to another government department that is responsible for that. That's how you handle media questions. Ministers must stay away from cameras and microphones and employ some of us who are trained to be able to handle journalists and media and microphones. And I think that was her mistake, the choice of word. But I fully understood what she meant.
I mean, I fully understood what she said.
An average, ordinary South African.
I removed my emotions when I was listening to her.
For you to understand.
And I understood exactly where she's coming from.
Yeah. But I think as a country, we should not allow lawlessness because people will suffer. People were said and alleged to be raped. You remember in the Krugersdorp issue, those 15 film girls who were supposed to shoot a
shooting
film.
Music video.
Yes, and they were raped, and it was allegedly by the Zamazamas and all that. But again, Brigadier Mate was talking about I even thought of you and your helper telling the story of the brother. That in Ekurhuleni, that area, there was a time they will pick up in a week 10 bodies every week, 10 bodies of them fighting each other. Now, also people want our police to go in down there and retrieve these people and arrest them. No, why do you want police to risk their lives?
You don't know what you're walking into.
You don't know what you're
walking
into.
Blind.
Yes.
We know they're armed.
You are not trained to be underground. The police duty is not underground. It's here on the service on the ground. And look, over 1,000 of those people have come out. And I think humanitarianly, when they come out, they have been taken to hospitals. If they are dehydrated, they are being given food, and they are charged and arrested. And in prison in South Africa, you'll eat a balanced, nutritious meal. So if I'm them, I'll rather come out than go to prison to live and eat well. And
if I'm not mistaken, I think on Thursday a body was also taken up.
Yes, there was one body that was taken up by some of those miners. So you can see they are looking at their friends and colleagues dying. Even myself as a human being, if I'm starving and I can't breathe anymore and I see somebody collapsing, I would rather carry that body and go out and raise my hands. But I wish this situation gets resolved very quickly, and so that we should not lose any more lives.
Speaking of resolution and loss of lives, etc., last week we spoke about how SADC is quiet regarding the election results and the strikes that have been happening
in Mozambique.
And in fact, earlier this week, opposition leader Mondlane had encouraged his people to carry on, taking the fight to the status quo.
Yes.
SADC have a voice now.
Yeah, they jumped. They are actually the kind of leaders we have. Look, SADC has decided to call an emergency summit in Harare. And why in Harare? Because President Mnangagwa is the current chair of SADC.
It's not an emergency anymore. It was an emergency 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. It was an emergency when Mondlane and the others declared that there's rigging of votes, and SADC report confirmed what the opposition or the contestants of the election, they confirmed, and they sat down. Now, lives have lost, almost 21 lives have lost by now. Trade has been affected, borders have been closed, and as you correctly said, Mr. Mondlane has come up, and I've also heard on the radio another leader of, I think it's another party, Araujo, from an area called Kilimani in Mozambique, said they're intensifying this weekend. They're intensifying, and they must close other ports now, not only Lebombo and Maputo port. The South African government has come out as well through the Border Management Authority to actually issue warning to South Africans to resist traveling to Mozambique, and for traders to also try and use alternative routes. But those that are compelled or are supposed to go to Maputo port, they may be affected affected again this weekend and in the coming week. But SADC has been sleeping fresh. They are the cause of this whole thing that happened in Mozambique. They should have called the ruling party in Mozambique or the government of Mozambique, because it's the same party, Frelimo. They should have called them to order. They should have said to them, the people are not happy. You don't want dead bodies on the street. You don't want protests. You don't want to affect the economy. But again, if Frelimo as well, Tato, if Frelimo think they won elections, why would they not want to recount or rerun? If you are confident that you have won with that margin that they've demonstrated, I mean, that's a very huge margin. Yeah. You know, when the elections are debated and the margins are, let's say, 48%, 51, 52, another one, 1%, it's too close, that one. But with that big margin that they claim to have achieved, why wouldn't they allow recount? Why wouldn't they allow rerun of elections if recount is not an option?
And what is the cost of a recount?
Yes.
If you have not rigged the election,
yes.
If you have not stuffed the ballot boxes,
exactly.
If the number of people on the voters roll is exactly the number of ballots that were in the boxes, why are you afraid
Why are you afraid of doing that? And I think that's what SADC must do.
Yeah.
SADC must actually say, you don't want to rerun the elections, it's costly, you need a government working, you need establishing the count. Let's recount. And let's recount with international observers. Don't use SADC observers anymore alone. Have other observers, or bring different bodies from SADC and see if it will be a different results that we arrive at. But this says to me, our leaders do not care about African lives. You know, if you are a head of state and 21 people die in less than a week because of riots, like in South Africa, we are sitting in a situation whereby over 30 kids have now died due to food poisoning, and the president only came into the podium, last night or on Thursday night. It's a challenge that I'm sitting with. Where is an element of humanity from the political leaders in the country? What should happen? Or who should die? Who should die?
As long as it's not my family member, it doesn't affect me.
I
think that's the attitude.
And you claim to be a head of state representing everybody in the country. And that's where my problem is. That's why earlier on when we spoke about the Rousseau, I said the kind of leaders that we put into power. And I've heard people from neighboring countries saying, including Mozambican political leaders, saying South Africa must use their diplomatic muscle to help us resolve this problem quickly. But that's not the government, that's the opposition, because once they don't resolve it, they know what will happen.
Yeah.
Mozambicans will leave Mozambique and come to South Africa, one for safety, two for greener pastures, and to live. Yeah. And they know once they cross the border, they are this side, our beautiful constitution will protect them. They now have a reason to be asylum seekers in South Africa.
Absolutely.
Because of what is happening there. We don't see what we are doing. They will move to, they can't move to Zimbabwe, it has its own crisis.
As if we're not struggling already with servicing just South Africans alone.
Yes.
Just to access basic health care. It's a mission.
The resources are strained. I watched Action SA in Johannesburg. They were going through hospitals during the course of this week. And I saw in one of the clinics or hospital, they showed the files. And they were saying 70% of the files, they were well organized in a filing room. They said 70% of those files are foreign nationals. And the nurses in that hospital or clinic confirmed that it's foreign nationals. So the country's resources are already strained. And there's crisis happening in the neighboring countries. And we cannot continue with our silent diplomacy. We cannot. What will be wrong in President Ramaphosa standing up with Mr. Lamola and doing what they are doing for the Palestinians? Do it for the Mozambicans.
Dude, in 30, 40 years, the only president who ever out loud called out Mugabe was President Khama.
Was President Khama, yes.
Only one.
And that's why there was a fallout between Zimbabwe, and that even affected the construction of the Kazangula Bridge.
Yes.
And it was President Khama to say, but that's nonsense, what is happening there? You were there when my father was there, you are still there, and you are only killing your own people.
Dude, this broerskap that's happening with our leaders is rubbish.
I don't even think it's broerskap fresh. When you look at the eras, when you look at the political background of, for example, of President Ramaphosa, President Mnangagwa, and the current president of Mozambique, they don't come from the same era.
Yeah, but we are eating.
Nah, eating at whose expense? Your people's expense. And when the youth, when I saw the Mozambican youth doing what they were doing, I thought of what you said when it started in Kenya. This thing is filtering down, and you said it when it was around March, February when you spoke about it. It is now at our doorstep.
It's a matter of time in every country on this continent before young people say, okay,
enough is enough. Yeah. Now, and I think Sadak is too late. I just pray and hope. You know, Mozambique is my third or fourth home. I spent 2 years of my life there, and I've seen the West. I don't know why did the government always send me to war-torn countries, Rwanda and Mozambique.
No, because sometimes you must have a Buddhist go to an area that needs the peace and the calm.
You know.
So your approach was always calm.
No, I've seen how people have suffered there. I've seen how I don't wish Mozambique to go into another civil war. They haven't really healed and recovered from what happened in the 80s. They were rebuilding the country. Let this president, he has eaten. You said they want to eat. He has eaten. Frelimo has eaten for 56 years. Let them shift. Let another one come to eat. If politics are the business of eating, let those who ate move now and let the other ones eat. If that will bring peace.
Sure.
Because that's what you need. In order to eat, in order for the country to prosper, for the GDP to grow, to fight inflation, you need peace and stability.
Absolutely.
Now they make a lot of revenue through the Maputo and the Beira ports. They make a lot of revenue. Now, if you can't use your port, what will you eat? They're not even thinking. What is the source of revenue in Mozambique? It's tourism. It's their ports. You understand? And that's their main source of revenue, and their gas. Now, if you can't transport your gas, if you can, do whatever you have been doing to make money, you must manage those affairs. That there must be peace and show a little bit of caring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of caring, many say part of his brand is his non-caring nature. President-elect Trump is picking his cabinet gently, slowly, but he is on brand in terms of what he promised. And then when you look at the kind of people he's bringing in, he wants to make good on the promises.
Yeah, I think the people he's bringing in. Look, I'm still surprised by Elon Musk. That one surprised me. I know they are close. I thought the man is a multi-trillionaire. He doesn't need a political position. But I think, as you are saying, Trump is bringing him to say, those media and everything else. I just like the first thing that Trump did. I'm friends with Russians. I'm a Russophilia. And he said, RT, so he apologized to Russia today. So I'm sorry we are sorting this thing out, okay? But he brings Elon Musk to go and run the media thing. So Musk is going to be watching himself.
No, it's called, what is it, Ministry of Department of Efficiency.
Yes.
And for me, it smells like a position for a friend. It smells like I'm going to bloat the cabinet a bit so that my friend can have a job.
Thank you, yes.
Because let me tell you, every department or ministry should be staffed in such a way that they operate optimally and that there are efficiencies all the time. I don't think you need a ministry to now monitor the efficiencies of other ministries.
Now, I don't think in the US you need that. Maybe in South Africa.
In fact, you could even have AI do it for you if you wanted to go that far.
If you want to go that far.
You know what I mean? But I don't know that a position like that is actually needed.
No.
It's a position for a friend.
Well, a friend that does not need a position or money, and I think it's, like
it's
I said, it's to monitor. It's power.
It's a power move.
It's to assert power and to make sure that, look, this guy is running social media platforms that almost everybody on earth is using.
Sure.
And it will be easy for him to continue using. Remember the Democrats were threatening to shut down X or Twitter when they come back to power. But the appointment also immediately after this, then Israel appointed Habas or whoever to be the UN ambassador. And I am also not ruling out, and I've observed how the so-called, supporters of Israel, Trump has brought them in, you understand, as well. And it said to me, what is President-elect Trump doing now? Is he saying he's continuing with the Israel and the Middle East crisis by bringing these people into ministries that, look at the state secretary. The state secretary is the second most powerful position in the US, more even powerful than a deputy president. And you bring somebody who's a hardcore anti-Palestine. We know that the USA generally, they believe in one state. They don't believe on the two-state system. But you bring a hardcore one. I thought he was going to tone down a little bit. But I'm very disappointed. And
no, man, isn't he, in fact, isn't that guy boldly not even willing to acknowledge the existence of a Palestine?
Yes, that's what I say. They believe when he's the guy who, when Israel moved its capital to say they're going to occupy Jerusalem, he's the American who said, yeah, that's where it's supposed to be. He boldly doesn't see Palestine as existing. And the other surprise is the Minister of Defense, somebody with almost zero.
Pete Hegseth.
Yes.
No, but he's a veteran. He's been in the army.
Yeah,
he's a veteran, and he's been pro-veteran issues. But he's also, he was an anchor on Fox News.
Yes.
So we know how radical.
I wanted to say, you bring a former TV, that you were a soldier. We know almost everybody in the US becomes a soldier. Okay, he's a veteran because of age, not because he was involved in the battles in Vietnam, in whatever. But he's a chief, he's a media person, and you make him a Secretary of Defense. That part still caught me by surprise. But what I've noted with the Trump, remember, it must still go to Congress and confirmed by Congress. So what I've noticed also is the balance of the old, minded veterans,
old guard,
and the new guard, and the young ones who are going to keep him. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. Trump is a businessman. Stability is important for him. He is not going to spend American monies that he can use on workers to can fund the war with Ukraine or with Russia in Ukraine, or to continue funding Israel, to can continue destabilizing the Middle East. They are gradually losing more friends in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia is talking to BRICS, and the US will not want to lose Saudi Arabia as a friend. China has facilitated a peace meeting between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Iran is a member of BRICS already. Iran is the #1 enemy of the US. So I don't think the US are that stupid that they are going to ignore what BRICS and Russia and China are doing to stabilize the Middle East. China and Russia, they've taken a stand in the Middle East, a very clear stand. I think the smartest thing the Americans can do is not to stick to their old guard stand. Try and soften up towards, because you can't lose everybody towards a new economic bloc that is being formed. But it will be very interesting to see. Remember, he's the president-elect, and he'll take over the White House or the Oval Office in January, I think so. But there's a very important G20 meeting.
Do you think he'll attend?
I think what's going to happen, I think he's going to observe.
Or are we too much of a shithole?
Now, this G20 meeting is very, if I was President Trump, I would attend this meeting. Because it's very important. It happens just before the Christmas and the New Year when he takes office.
So that he can swear at us in our own
Exactly. Exactly that. He was coming and said, but no, I'm kidding, fresh. So that he can sway the G20 meeting towards what he had promised the Americans. It is a better, don't wait for the next one that is coming next year. And then you have to implement, if they sign a resolution. By the way, sometimes they meet and they don't sign any, they don't agree on the terminology and the weight. It has happened that the G20 and this multilateral forum, they meet, and because they don't agree with the wording, not the content, then they don't sign the development plan, agreement. So if I was President Trump, I will attend this G20. I will actually tell the Democrats, man, hey, Biden, stay home, or Kamala, stay home. Why would they attend? And then after 2 weeks, they are not in an office. If it has a smooth transition, it is Trump and his delegates who should attend the G20 meeting next month instead, or later this month, instead of the outgoing government. But it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting from January moving forward. But as I've been talking peace and stability in the world, what the UN was supposed to be doing to advocate for peace and stability, so security of people, food security, I think the world is changing a little bit better towards that direction. It's slowly taking that angle.
One thing about Trump, though, that I, love him or hate him, he's a very transactional man. Do for me, I'll do for you.
Yes.
Whether you're a Russia or a China, or do for me, I will do for you.
He's a businessman. So those who are going to be doing transactions is good. Do you know that immediately, I think one of the days during the week, the Iranian ambassador to Washington and or to the UN went to meet, not UN to US, but to UN, had a meeting with Elon Musk. They had it this week. They had a meeting. The Iranian and what Elon Musk is trying to do is trying to soften, in my view, he's trying to soften this hardline position between Iran and the US. It's historical. It's been years, but I think we are going to see a little bit of a turn and better relations between Iran and the US this time around.
So Musk is already at work making sure that things are efficient.
Yeah, well, in South Africa,
relations.
We move it. I don't know what is he doing there when they've got Secretary of State, but they had a meeting.
We are out of time. We need to wrap up. But for me, the biggest irony is one of his cabinet members. I can't remember which one it is so pro-Zionists and the state of Israel that he's never once acknowledged the existence of a Palestine. And he actually believes that the title deed for that land belongs to the Israelis.
The Israelis, yes.
The biggest irony is the title deed of the USA belongs to whom, sir? And why are they in reservations?
Yes.
That is the biggest irony.
It should start at home.
Start it at home.
They must give the Native Americans back their land.
About who the true owners of the land is.
In the US. Yeah, they must not start there.
Then look in the mirror, my guy.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror. You came on a ship. Your forefathers came on a ship. They don't have the title. You don't have the title deeds then.
There's Fresh taking a position as the ambassador or the honorary ambassador of the Native Americans.
Yes. Anyway, great episode.
Yes,
as always.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, brother.
Where do we find you online? How do we communicate with you?
We communicate via WhatsApp on 082-485-9100 or online at botsangm@gmail.com. That's the email address. And on all media handles is at botsangm.
Coming to you from Discover TV in Fourways, Johannesburg. Hit them up. Let them stage whatever you are doing. They'll even film it for you if that's what you need. Discover TV. Wow, what a week. Hashtag PoliTricks, part of the Africa Podcast Network. Email waw@africapodcastnetwork.com. Shout out Trevor and his team at Pezulu Works for the cinematography and to our executive producer, Keletso Modisake. But most importantly, shout out to you for getting in touch, for liking, for sharing, and for letting people know that Fresh and Botsang are on the devices. Till next week, have a wow week. In spite of yourselves, we're out of here.